Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. With me is Admiral Teague. How you doing, Admiral?
You haven't heard the StreamYard's countdown song until you accidentally have it in two browsers 30 seconds behind itself. What's up, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty good. And hey, Gorilla. Can't join. Headed to Sisters. Well, enjoy your day at your sister's place, Gorilla.
Sister, you have a sister. If you will not join us, perhaps she will. Your thoughts have betrayed her as well.
Okay, the winner of this week's poll by a single vote: The Karate Kid animated series from 1989.
Now,
This
this would
one
be
is,
before the new Karate Kid, so there will be no Hilary Swank.
unfortunately, this one's loosely based off of, and when I say loosely, very, very loosely, Karate Kid Part 2.
Well, that was a
That
direct
is to
sequel, so
say,
everything.
yeah, that is to say that it has the characters, and that's about it.
But the world's substantially changed, and maybe there's magic. That's what we've seen here in cartoon world.
Yep.
No show makes it from regular TV to cartoon without substantial changes. Unless it's an original cartoon, it's going to be changed. Even if it's a comic book first, it seems to get changed quite a bit. Like for instance, I think it was it X-Men, where the Hellfire Club from the comics is the Circle in the cartoon. So whether it be minor changes so the kids don't go running out of the room because there's a TVMA, or substantial overhauls like we saw with Highlander, where they went as far enough as to develop a new story, or just ignoring fucking everything like we've seen over and over again. A lot of these things just ignore absolutely everything. Teen Wolf had nothing to do with anything Teen Wolf.
Yeah. And this one, well, our first episode, My Brother's Keeper. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san are out on an adventure in the jungle. So you see how relevant this is to the actual movies.
Let me translate for the people of my country. They're in an adventure in the jungle. That's for all the Cubans out there.
Okay, here we go.
These cartoons brought to you by the It Gets Better program. It gets better.
We can only hope.
Now, as we've seen, the worse the cartoon, the more that's riding on your beginning. But sometimes it's such a bad cartoon that the beginning is despicably low effort. Teen Wolf was so horrible. That beginning had me anything but wanting to watch this. And then, look, they're in Mexico.
So far, this is a much better intro than Teen Wolf.
All right, the song isn't that bad. It's terrible, but compared to Teen Wolf, it's not that bad for what we get. And there are no lyrics. They just chant the words Karate Kid, if that counts. So, yeah, at least it's on point, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what we're seeing looks more like the War Games cartoon. Like this is a mashup of all young adult movies from the 90s, is my guess. 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
We've made it to 89. Every minute of the 80s is in effect. RoboCop is in theaters, kids. A
Has
young
that
Ensign
sort of
Teague
sound they
starts
can
his
put
first.
on the
That was decent.
soundtrack to a 8-bit video game.
That was decent. So far, so good.
The animation certainly is better.
This might be Pat Morita. I didn't read the credits, but Pat Morita definitely didn't make as much money as he wanted to. Not the best Daniel San. He's
Yeah.
just a generic hero.
It is
Does
Pat
not look
Morita.
like. What did I tell you? You know what I read, and I only read this, so I don't know it's true. Just to make sure that everyone understands that. Well, they turned his girlfriend into Jennifer Connelly, though. That wasn't a bad idea. Um, I read that Pat Morita was like written off of Happy Days and not extended beyond the Odd Couple because Drinky Drinky.
I didn't hear that. I know he loved
I
Vegas.
no,
He
he
lived
loved
in Vegas
Drinky
for
Drink.
about 40 years.
He loved Drinky Drinky, and when he showed up for work the day he played drunk Mr. Miyagi, he had researched that part really well, was what I heard.
Oh, yeah. But he spent the last 20 years of his life in Vegas. He didn't really leave too much.
See,
He loved the place.
I don't know how to assess that one because Vegas is not a huge drive from LA, right? So a lot of people, including Vinnie Vincent, the guy, not Vinnie Vincent, I'm sorry, Jakey Lee, the guy from Ozzy, who got notably was in an incident the other day, and we wish him well. He lives in Vegas too because you don't have to pay like, especially people who are there for a while. I think now it's close to the same, but you don't have to pay California life funds, but you can get back to LA for work and stuff on a without a lot of hassle. It might be 4 or 5 hours, it might be less. I think you can fly there cheap. If you're Pat Morita, you can fly there and fly out. Like with the savings he got from not living in Hollywood at that time, right? He could gamble and
Yeah.
probably fly in and fly out for movie roles. You know what that would add up to is he kept his first apartment when he bought a house. He bought it in Vegas, or he went there and spent so much money. They're like, you can live here for free, because that'll happen. Someone like a Pat Morita might not have to worry about anything but their comped room because they walk around through the lobby enough for people to be like, "Oh my God, it's Pat Morita."
Pat Morita did the intro. Uh,
But then
Miyagi Yakuga does the actual episode voice. Oh no, that's Robert Ito.
Robert Ito is
Robert.
Sam from Quincy.
Yeah.
I know Robert Ito. I thought he was Sulu when I was really little. I was like, "Oh, cool! Sulu's on a new TV show, hanging out with the guy from The Odd Couple." Then my parents explained to me, "No, son, that's not Sulu. That guy likes women." What the fuck? What?
Yeah, that is a huge stereotype for a jungle boy.
We have just dueling, classically flawed representations of everyone by pedigree. How's that for a way of saying it?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Hey, LDG.
I heard someone went out to dinner. Is Mamo Pray as short as I said, or what, LDG? Um, Now you and I aren't the most PC guys in the world, are we?
No, to say the least.
At all. And I would just say this: it doesn't make it to the point of hateful, but this is weird and cringe. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit the aesthetic.
Not only that, but their choice of like the story. It's really weird. Like when we saw the Aztec type guy doing Aztec things in a typical way that would play through two speakers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, they just seem out of place.
Into someone else's cartoon that's a bad. Well, Mr. Miyagi is a mean. These guys are mean motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Poor Quincy. Poor Sam from Quincy.
The
You're
tribal
too
leader,
old.
that's the fat cat from Rescue Rangers.
Okay,
Is that true?
we're we're
Oh yeah,
overlapping in time frame, aren't we?
that's Jim Cummings.
We're overlapping the time frame of that show, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Jim Cummings is one of the greatest voice actors of all time. He did Fat Cat. I think his most famous would be Darkwing Duck.
Oh,
Maybe
I know
Winnie the
Darkwing.
Pooh.
I'm not crazy about that voice. The Winnie the Pooh voice gets to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he has great range. Jim Cummings actually does YouTube where he interviews a lot of other voice actors. If you're interested in voice acting, that's a great channel to follow.
This is so poorly drawn that some items that they are displaying are just barely recognizable. Everyone's
Yeah,
gotten a bit
it's
naked
not
except the
taking.
chick.
Yeah, it's not taking you out of it though.
Not yet. No. This is hilarious. It's conversation of the Yoda talkers. Guys, imagine Yoda talking to Tonto, talking to Frankenstein. It's not bad. Not part of it. It's funny. It's bad funny. No,
Because the chief would
no,
kill him.
normal will not speak, they won't.
Yeah, that's right, LDG. He did Darkwing Duck. He also did Nega Duck on that show.
As I look at this, it's like we have some old Johnny Quest animation backgrounds, put the new cells on them.
Yeah.
We have diversity in the jungle. Whoa. That was such a bad cut. They used the same background twice. They wanted to cut away, so what looked like happened was the chief just disappeared. Am I right? Here, we'll see it again. Wow, they're proud of that. Oh no, it's a different angle.
It is a very jarring way to hear someone speak a lot.
Especially when Yoda talks to Tarzan. That's the only way I know how to put it.
Yeah.
We've had a Yoda Tarzan conversation 3 times, and it's like all our adjectives and verbs are moved around and out of order. Pronouns, forget it. Like all words have no meaning in this. Sometimes we've been gobsmacked. This is
Unfortunately,
fun though.
it's very accurate. It's how my mother-in-law talks.
I didn't say that it was unbelievable, unrealistic. I just said it was funny. Now, would this be an ex or future mother-in-law?
Future.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ESPN 8. We have log rolling today with Tarzan and Danielson. Guys, the best way to explain the voice of the jungle child. Remember when you called school and tried to call in sick as your own parents? That's kind of how it sounds. Hey, take that, you little asshole.
Hey, they got some good voices in this, though. I'll give them credit.
The voices are good, and they're doing things exactly as they're being directed, but the director might be a little bit unaware. When we have 4 people in this story. 3 of them talk like Yoda. Did she get? Did that cartoon character change its shade?
Maybe a
Is
little
she
bit.
maybe a little inconsistent?
Yeah, a little patchy.
I just want to say this is 100 times better than Teen Wolf still.
Yeah, definitely.
They didn't have
So
like a
far, the
solid.
best part of this. So far, the best part of the show is the secondary voice actors. You get Jim Cummings, James Avery, real stars.
Wow, that got out there and buried by itself without us ever hearing about it, and this guy just knows about it and digs it up.
Yeah, they're gonna notice a pasty white guy beats up the chief, and then suddenly the kid shows up.
Well, if you notice, they change colors too. I think he's painted with like no. Every scene we see him in, he's a different shade. I don't know if they're trying to compensate for the light. They're trying to do light and shadows.
They're not doing
I
very
love
well.
I love that we have a stable lava pit in the middle of our village, just unexplained. It's fine, and we're gonna fight on it. This is not like the Pelican stance or whatever. This is getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah, the whole shrine thing doesn't make any sense.
They're like, this is the One Ring, and it's basically like a touristy pagoda that you would buy in like a Chinatown on the visit to New York.
It's funny. They actually got Tamlin Tamata back for this series. She played Kimiko in Karate Kid Part 2. However, she is not playing the voice of Taki. She is just doing additional voices.
Weird, 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 weird. My guess is they paid her, but then they couldn't come through with payment too, and she's like, "Oh no," or she had a really good agent,
Yeah,
or was
because
bad-hearted. Like, we'll have her name in the credits, and no one will know.
Taki is clearly based off of Kimiko.
Oh, she's based. That's when that's when we made what we would call Karate Kid 2, No Elizabeth Shue. I'm still disturbed by Elizabeth Shue's nude scene in The Boys season 2. She didn't look bad, but it wasn't flattering and it was all cringe.
And the shrine is gone. At least it's not around anymore to make no sense.
Very strange and a choice on the color for the dinosaurs, for the crocodiles or alligators, whatever the fuck they are, the crocodigators,
I think they may have
the
ran out of green.
alligiles. They used a lot of green in this, so the alligiles or the crocodigators, whatever you want to call them. I don't think it matters. They have no tail action, nothing. We basically the achievement level unlocked in this cartoon is sometimes they blink.
Yeah. And all of a
That
sudden, that kid got darker.
again, yeah, in this fictional story. We just didn't have what we would call a color palette Bible for this, right? For the artists drawing this cartoon, they didn't have like Use red number 5 in full sunlight, red number 3 in the dark for this guy's jacket. Nothing like that got written down. What do you think?
Either that or they're just running out of supplies at some point.
Or effort. We have a real low effort ending, but it's very appropriate. They didn't embarrass themselves in this. It's just not great. And Pat Morita, yep. Jim Cummings. They had a huge voice cast. It took like 17 voice actors to do that.
But apparently.
That might be for
Okay,
the whole
greatest
series.
victory.
This is really Pat Morita.
Yeah.
I guess. If we get any Pat Morita, it's
Pat
that.
Morita does the intro, and then Barbara Io is the actual in episode voice.
So the way to explain it is before every episode, there's a quick like setup, like this week on, best way to put it. And that's Pat Morita.
Yeah. Just to get his name in the credits. And
we've done a similar move with some of the other cast. This is not the real Daniel-san.
Oh, not even close. That doesn't even sound like Ralph Macchio.
No, he doesn't sound like he's from New Jersey at all. And we're having a tough time figuring out their world. It's different than the world of the Karate Kid. You would figure in a Karate Kid cartoon, he would live in an apartment and hang out with his mom and Mr. Miyagi, but he's in, I think, South America in the jungle.
No, he's in Hong Kong.
Now he's spanning the globe to bring you the world. There's junk on screen, by which I mean there's a Chinese sailing ship known as a junk on screen. It's weird how well preserved this is, though. There's no damage or any degradation.
Yeah, I think it got at that right time where VHS was really popular and they made about 10 million of them just to make them. And if they sold an eighth of that, they made a profit.
I believe this is what they called 4-inch tape. The tape was about 4 inches across, hence the name. And like the tracks were stacked from top to bottom. That's how they would do editing at that point, the original editing. Here's the thing, though. It doesn't even have the swimming and pulling that you have on a videotape. Usually videotape would be slightly warped at the top and the bottom. We don't have that effect either. This was digitized quickly and well.
Yeah.
Or stored ideally and then digitized really well. Because even the digitization, if it had been earlier, wouldn't be as good. I mean, we're seeing exactly what was broadcast, if not a little better than what people were able to see then. We have better equipment.
Yeah, because we're seeing this in 720. This would have been 480 at best.
At best. Cathode ray tubes were a different principle. Wow, I don't
want to.
I don't understand that. And Harry Pothead here, the little pudgy kid, is attacking everything in sight. Dragon Man, is that like Josh Seitzer? Josh Sider, is that how you say it? Cedar? Cider?
I'm not sure.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I assume there's a House of Dragons guy.
No, Josh Seitzer was the guy from The Bachelorette who trolled the world on X for a year. He just admitted to his hoax the other day.
Oh, I never heard of him.
He um he was a reality TV guy. His time on reality TV ended. He was basically going to be irrelevant, but a celebrity. He came up with a second act that people thought was just an act, and it turns out it was, but it was pretty funny. And it might be of value.
Oh wow.
Did you Google him?
The I just no, I looked up the guy playing Danielson.
Who is it?
Joey Dito. Puerto
Whom?
Rican guy. Joey Dido? Dida?
Jo- Okay, Joey Dido or Dita
Didio. Yeah.
Dideo. I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
Dideo. That's the first little imperfection we've seen in this print. I'm gonna think some of these mistakes. Oh wow, they're painting them. They decided the best they could do is paint the Mortal Kombat logo and invoke a good show. Soundtrack very much of its time. It's just one guy on a keyboard, but he's good.
Yeah. Yeah, they kept it simple. Probably for the hopes that they can get a small time, probably NES game out for it.
I can sort of hear the conversation now. It's like we have an offer for a Karate Kid cartoon. Well, listen, these Karate Kid movies are rolling off the assembly line. I mean, we're going to make one every other year for at least 10 years. This is good money, like for very little, out. So don't give them the full license. We don't want them to like piss all over the idea. Or this license costs a lot more than you think it does.
Yeah. I don't know. In 1989, it was pretty big property.
It absolutely was. It had hit back to back box office success. I think the second one very possibly might have made more than the first one simply because of wider release and more well known.
Yeah, nice simple story. Definitely not the worst ever seen. Let's see here. Oh wow, Karate Kid Part 2 did $115 million.
How much did it cost to make? 22 million, 25 million? That thing made bank.
That yeah, it made a lot because they didn't
Bank.
spend that nearly that much back then.
That movie cost nothing to make.
IMDb does not have the price listed for what it actually costs to make.
$25 million would seem like the top because it was $40 million to make Star Trek the Motion Picture about 10 years before this. And that was considered exorbitant.
Oh, but they do have the budget for the original Karate Kid, and
It'll be similar.
$8 million for the original Karate Kid.
So my
Worldwide
$25
growth,
million is definitely wrong. It's like $13 million.
yeah, but it grossed $91 million.
Right. No, let's talk about the second one. Yeah, okay. So the first
Yeah,
one makes $87 million excluding cost of release, because we don't know how much that was, but maybe it cost $8 million to release it then, tops.
yeah.
Because this is going to sound insane because of the way it sounds, but Germ, as insane as this sounds, validate this one for me. I'm not talking crazy here. $8 million used to be a whole hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
It still is, but not in Hollywood.
So, yeah, easily, no matter what cost you add onto it, the first Karate Kid cleared $70 million in profit.
That was with $4 and less movie tickets, maybe $8 movie tickets tops, right? And that's in like the biggest of cities. And
Yeah.
that's in like an analog movie theater with film, not a audio video file loaded into the camera. People putting actual silver and paper into people's hands in a way that you don't see anymore, because now it's like you can't carry around enough money to bring your family to the theater. It's like making yourself a mugger magnet. You have to
Well,
charge
you
it.
almost need a freaking wheelbarrow to go out today if you had cash on you.
Let's just say the idea where we would have $5 coins is no longer viable. It'd have to be like a $35 coin, and no one would want to carry it around.
Yeah. And you were about right on the $13 million. $12.5 million.
If you've ever
So,
noticed this one on archival finances, I'm usually really good. Like, I understand the finances of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s really well for a reason.
yeah, so both of them grossed about 10 times the cost. So that is damn good.
As opposed to a $500 million Captain Falcon movie floundering and getting rewritten and reshot again and again and again and again and again and again. Do you think there was more than one or two redrafts of that script? You know, they're like, we have to have a good enough story. We need our cry moment. We need our laugh moment. We need a successful story. But like, we're not like, we're not writing War and Peace here or Shakespeare.
Yeah. And they'll end up making maybe 1.5, 2 times the money. It's like they don't understand simple economics. You're making a bigger take if you do 10 times your cost, even if it's low, then you're doing double your cost. That shrine's power is relatively inconsistent.
So here's the thing, Germ. By the time they get this license sorted out to make this cartoon, second one's on this little thing called home video we were talking about, videotapes and all that. That's huge now.
Yeah.
That was the first thing they said would end Hollywood and end all movies. They said that that's what would happen from it, clearly. Clearly, that was not the outcome. Wow.
Let's see. When was the first episode of this?
About 4 weeks after the first episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, September 9th is when this debuted, so This is about 5 months after Karate Kid Part 3 came out.
To give everyone an idea, The Simpsons did not exist yet as a show. The Simpsons did not exist yet. So, Jerem, is it just me? Is this my arrogance to think that we can really sort cartoons and animation on television in this country into BS and AS after The Simpsons and before The Simpsons?
To a point, yeah. After Simpsons, things tend to get a little bit more cruder for the humor.
Here's the thing. In America, at this point, if it was a cartoon at all, it was implied heavily that it had to be only for children.
Yeah.
Which was an ignorant thing to say at the time because there were cartoons meant for adults going back to the earliest days of animation. Those Max Fleischer Popeyes were not meant for kids. They weren't meant to not be for kids, but they were for what was called the classic general audience.
Oh, wow. This cartoon was sabotaged greatly.
Explain.
Karate Kid Part 3 only did $38 million.
Because I don't think it was released in theaters.
Oh, no, it was released.
It was too much Karate Kid too soon.
Yeah, every 2 years they're putting out one.
It was too much Karate Kid too fast.
Yeah, that really doesn't make sense, though. You base your cartoon off of Part 2, but you don't release it until after Part 3.
Production delay. Think about this. They had been bidding for a Karate Kid cartoon license since Part 1. No one wants to give them the license because they have a fear it's going to end up looking like this.
Well, this would have done a lot better if it wasn't for Karate Kid Part 3.
But
Part 3 killed the franchise for 20 years.
I think the next Karate Kid makes money. And by the way, that movie was a failure, but everyone got their money back. The price was so little, you know?
Yeah. Then we get the Jackie Chan movies, which were, I don't care how much money they made, they're horrible.
Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, wow. I do not think
obvious.
Next Karate Kid made its money back. It only grossed
Oh, the
15
World Trade
million.
Center. Look at that's going to age well. They're in New York this week. It's a trip back in time to my hometown of my youth, but boys. Oh my God, that rendering. Whoa, what happened here?
It's the yellow.
No, but also his face is just was so poorly. Look from a distance, the medium shot,
Oh yeah, his face is flat.
and they have no knowledge of New York. Based on where they are in that picture, they're like in another dimension. Or New Jersey, 6-1. Sometimes these characters look like I took a felt tip marker and just put 2 dots on a line on my thumb. Do not worry, this is New York. I have criminal superpowers.
That is a very bad pun.
It's trying to be Clue Club or Scooby Doo. He's going to cover all the stores in New York in one day. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
Asian antique stores.
I'm in that subway station every day that said Lex. I pass through there every day. That's not what it looks like, but okay. It didn't look anything. This is not what the subway is like, ladies and gentlemen.
It's okay, they lifted the subway from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, is it identical?
They copy subways for all the cartoons. It's a generic subway.
Now it's starting to get real. All right, here's the classic thing here. No lone thief in a balaclava. Wow. Physics. No lone thief in a balaclava terrorizes like 40 New York commuters. People start throwing shit at you and trying to jump you. None of this makes a lot of sense. Are you a cop? No, I am vigilante.
Well, everyone has to have a hobby.
I'm into it.
Hi, Mombi.
Hello. Huh?
Well, I guess that makes some sense. You don't have to report it to the IRS.
Well, the part that does make sense is he's back in the New York and New Jersey area. And when he goes to New Jersey, of course, he sees people he knew. A little bit simplistic, but I mean, he's going back to his old areas. So, like, we're assuming he went to the part of New Jersey he knew.
Yeah. It's his old boss, and he's roping him into doing a favor for him.
Old boss or first mentor, it's hard to tell right now.
No, he said he used to be the delivery boy for him.
No, that part I got. I'm saying, like, is he just a boss or is he a mentor? You know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, Mr. Miyagi is Daniel-san's boss because he has to work around the garden.
All those pizzas.
What the hell?
Why do they have bees?
What the fuck? This is the second time in 3 cartoons we've really gone deep down a rabbit hole with insects.
I don't understand why there are bees there. He's supposed to be delivering pizzas, not bees.
And why wouldn't you tape the boxes shut? What is the Mr. Miyagi's like so at one with nature the bees won't attack him? This is a better episode than the other one because we only have one person who talks like Yoda instead of 3 having a conversation. That was some funny shit. Going cruising. How the what the That happens all the time, right? I
It is.
accidentally eat someone else's food. You've never done
Yeah,
that?
that make no sense.
I really think Karate Kid 3 tanking out lowered the licensing costs, and they were just like, look, it's now the Karate Kid fire sale. We got as much as we could out of it. We ran it into the ground a little too hard.
Yeah, maybe.
2 was only okay. It killed 3.
No, 2 is the best of the franchise.
Is it? Are we still in his own world? Is that the one where we go to Japan, or is that the one where we
Yeah.
stay in his own world? Okay. I'm going to say 1 was the best. I didn't know there was a 3. Classic mistake here with the tattoo in the back of the hand. That's going to be a problem at job interviews.
Yeah, their big mistake with the third one was replacing his girlfriend for the 3rd time in a row. Made him look sort of like a scumbag.
They couldn't get back Elizabeth Shue. She wasn't going to do it, right? She got Back to the Future. And she was supposed to be in the sequels till they were like, no way.
But when it came to the third one, they just didn't want to bring back the character.
Does the third one send him back home or back to New York?
The third one's back in California.
So for him, home. Do we bring back Johnny or anything like that, or we just have another story in his old world?
It is, they bring back Cobra Kai, but they don't bring back any of the Cobra Kai characters.
That's too bad.
They get a new, I forget which one was the first one, which one was the second one for the Cobra Kai guys.
This might be the first franchise that, like, it starts out good, it gets terrible, and when it comes back, it's like next level good. Better than the source. Wow, did you see that strobing on the side of the van?
Oh, wow.
The name and logo were strobing on and off. It's April O'Neil in a slightly different outfit. I love how the Tony's Pizza truck is like at least the Italian flag colors. Like they got that part right.
Yeah.
And all oranges are the same color. Maybe Daniel-san needed a different color shirt.
Yeah, the oranges, reds, and browns are tending to blend together.
His sweater and the front of the car that he's sitting in are exactly the same shade of orange. We buy food just to throw it away without eating it.
Well, yeah, that was the 80s.
There's a shot that the McDLT is what ended the 80s. Do you remember that? Do you remember the McDLT?
I remember the Jason Alexander commercial for it. That's one of the worst things I've ever saw.
It was really bad, and like McDonald's was sort of like, I hate to sound like I'm against being an entrepreneur or anything, but like there are corporations that just ain't so great, and like the McDonald's corporation's idea was really good to make money, but it was really bad as like a corporate neighbor. Like if you didn't want to live within a mile of McDonald's because it had like really bad littering problems, and like the McDLT was something they introduced right around this time. And what it was is, remember back in the past, before burgers came wrapped in a single piece of paper, they came in a styrofoam clamshell, which hypothetically lasts for 1,000,000 years.
Yep.
The McDLT
And
was.
I remember walls of those.
Yes, that was kind of like part of the impactful image of when you walked into McDonald's. They had a wall of those styrofoam boxes, and those didn't go away, right? Like they didn't decompose. So if you live within like 2 miles of McDonald's, like it's gonna build up. It's not gonna go anywhere unless you yourself remove it.
I remember homeless people around here collecting them for their own construction projects.
They were durable and they were eternal. They were they were waterproof, and they were kind of thick styrofoam. And what happened was maybe by the middle of the 80s, people were like starting to get through with their complaint. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, that thing's power is really, really inconsistent.
What the what how I don't know how you monetize this thing, you know? So short story long, the McDLT was billed as hot side hot, cool side cool, so it had twice as much packaging as any other McDonald's sandwich. It was two clamshells attached with a detachable lid with the one bun and all of the meat on one side, and the other bun with tomatoes and lettuce on the other. So for every sale, they now had twice the garbage, and that actually started people like a spark to action. And their over reliance on styrofoam also resulted in that lawsuit where they got sued. That is the most misrepresented lawsuit in history. This is the second week we've had a white elephant. Wasn't that the name of the bar in last week's show?
Might have been.
You'll find them at the White Elephant. I seem to remember someone saying that. Whoa. If you're Mr. Miyagi and you meet someone else who's from the same part of the world as you just have to give them a knowing look and they will like surrender you their property or their boss's property. That's great. It's like he's part of the Borg.
No, he's part of the mafiosa.
I am with Foot Clan. Are you with Foot Clan? Since you can't copyright the letter N, they made it look like he was wearing New Balances. Last time it turned me into a bug. Now it'll make me powerful because reasons. I don't know if the info was correct, but I think the number one song in America was at this point. There may have been an ABBA reunion.
I don't know what that is.
You've heard of ABBA. Swedish singing group, two men, two women. Waterloo, Waterloo, baby.
Oh, that. Okay. I know the song. I just don't know the band.
If I played you like the 10 most popular ABBA songs, you would know all of them and you would start to be able to sing the songs. The winner
Probably.
takes it all. The loser has to fall. Like at this point, Genesis is just reformed. Right? Phil Collins has made so much money he can hang out with his old friends one more time. Oh, I was wrong, guys. I got to apologize. The number one song wasn't ABBA. I heard it wrong. It was Paula Abdul.
That makes
Also in
more
the top.
sense.
Here are the top five: Hangin' Tough, New Kids on the Block; Cold Hearted, Paula Abdul; I Don't Want to Lose You by Gloria Estefan; Heaven by Warrant; and Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx. And also
That's
something
the
called Shower
1989
Me
I remember.
and Shower Me with Your Love by Surface, and Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You by Milli Vanilli. It looks like the number one story in America is Ivan Boesky. You know what? The number one of the top 10 stories in the news this month that this episode was released is, give you an idea how old this is. Ready for this one, Germ? Crazy stuff. Soviet Union plans to cut the debt.
Wow.
It's gonna work, I'm sure.
A lot of these episodes are missing a lot of crucial setup. It's like there could be an episode in between each of them.
Hey, Jerem, I've got another topical story for you from the month that this cartoon debuted. Guess what the top story was?
It's here, September of '89.
It's fairly major. Can you remember it, though? I'll give you a hint. It's not
Iraq
music
invaded
related, but
Iran.
I think at this point, those two countries are still engaged in a stalemate war, so that probably did happen too, and vice versa. There are probably incursions by both sides at that point. But
What's the top
that's
headline?
that's happening. The top line, I'll give you one hint quick. This is not music related, but think Pink Floyd.
I can't think
Fall.
about what Pink Floyd was doing in '89.
It wasn't 89 as part of the meta of their band. The Berlin Wall came down the month that this debuted. End of communism in all of Eastern Europe by the end of that year. And this is September. It was a very eventful 15 weeks, Germ. I think Chernobyl goes down like 10 weeks later. Why would you bother introducing yourself to a psychic?
Yeah.
Oh, there'll be no more movies for a little while.
Well, no more good movies.
I'm willing to believe the Hillary Swank one could have been okay, but I mean, who would bother watching it, right?
Unfortunately, I've seen it. It's not okay.
How did they mess it up?
She ain't a great actress.
She has an Academy Award.
So what? That doesn't
She has
mean she's
two.
good.
Does she have two? Does she have one for Boys Don't Cry and one for the Clint Eastwood movie?
I think so.
Holy
But
fuck.
the only good thing about the next Karate Kid that it got Pat Morita a paycheck.
Well, and it gave us a future Academy Award winner. I had no idea that the next Karate Kid, when I walked into the theater next to it to see Buffy the Vampire Slayer, would have some of the same people in it. Because Hilary Swank's one of the heels in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. Wow. What? Whoa. Belongs in a museum.
Yeah, he may be shot when he comes back, but he'll come back.
The MacGuffin device is working again.
Yeah. Whatever power you want, he'll give you.
Who wrote this? J.J. Abrams?
Oh no, it actually answers the mystery box. JJ could never do that. Not the destiny you think it is. Yeah, it's all Daniel's fault.
Oh, that asshole? He's right over there. You think like Miyagi has some kind of force powers where he can like home in on the pagoda idol?
He must. That's the only way to explain it.
That's why I said kind of it's very JJ. Like, yes, we answered the questions, but the way we get the answers is unanswered. We have several magical items that simply tell us what we need to know or do what needs to be done. The way they just grew out of the back of that taxi. I gotta be honest, I don't. When he turned wow, look at the logo on his jacket. Did you see that?
Wow. That time there's no logo on his jacket.
It was standing off by a little bit. And when he turned, the logo didn't. Whoa. Look both ways, kids. To be fair, this is the beginning of Justice League. I wonder if what happened was they bought the license after the second movie. It takes until the third movie to get this stuff ready to come out. The third movie exposes that the Karate Kid is not a viable property right now, and then these people just like, we're not going to even try. We'll get back what we can.
Yeah, that's a possible explanation.
Well, what are your impressions so far of this world they've created?
It's not bad. I think it's just bad timing. If
It's
this
not
came
that
out,
bad.
if this came out maybe 2.5 years earlier, right after the second movie, it would have done a lot better.
Do you think that it makes? What do you think of my theory here that the movie people were like, we have to protect our license, we have to protect our license. Then they're like, movie 3 is going to be a dud, and they're like, okay, sell the cartoon rights. Like 300,000 is not doable anymore, but we can still get 30,000.
That does sound viable. They saw the huge collapse coming, and then, oh yeah, that property you've been wanting to make a cartoon of, we'll take that deal now.
There's also a cynical way to look at it is it was garbage all the way from the end of the second movie. They're like, all right, bring in any writer, bring in any person, just give the kid a contract, give him the raise he wants, make the freaking movie, save the money elsewhere. It'll bring in, X amount of money, and it could fluke its way to like 80, 90 million. So even when it only made
Yeah.
like 25 million bucks, it was like, all right, so we only made $2 million. It's like, but that movie, like we had higher hopes. Like, look, at the end of the day, $2 million more dollars is still $2 million more dollars. It didn't lose money.
Yeah.
Disney would love to trade the profits that Karate Kid 3 made for the money that Wakanda Forever made. Bearded Tom Baker keeps stealing their tourist garbage. He had more than enough time to crawl out of the way.
Yeah.
It's a good thing he fell into a hole in time, huh?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh
And
no.
now that shrine magically teleports to some other corner of the world.
Maybe it'll just stay in this rainwater basin in San Bernardino where it'll be discovered by a young Thomas Brady who will use it for football powers, Germ. The
That
timing's
explain
right.
how his unnatural quote unquote talent pops up.
Mr. Miyagi's unexplained MacGuffin is the pathway to many abilities. Some consider to be unnatural. Make your own
And that is
tomorrows,
our
kid.
last episode.
That was quotable, at least.
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad.
It's good sight better than what we had last week.
This was worlds better. Worlds and worlds better. I think last week was sort of that terrible cultural swirly that I've sometimes analogized it to, right? It's like sometimes when you get swirlied in pop culture, the bully like courtesy flushes with his foot because he's not that mean. This bully had no such compunction last week. We were swirlied in a fully dumped in bowl filled with like cigarette butts and every other bad thing. And that dirty water was moving around. We couldn't close our eyes tight enough, and we wanted to jump into a giant vat of sanitizer after last week's attempt at watching the cartoon. This went easier. This wasn't painful. There were some moments that we just have. I guess we would call them dumb.
Yeah.
It's your show. You tell me what you think. Hey, what's going on, Sith Man?
Welcome, Dan.
Good to see you, buddy. I was editing
And
away last night.
DJ Ronnie G. How you doing?
Good to see DJ Ronnie G. Hello, sir.
It seemed like the effort was there on this one, but at some point they lost the will.
Maybe the writing on the wall gets clearer and
yeah, it looked like around the stage of they just started animating, and then Karate Kid 3 comes out and they see that, oh, we just got fucked over. and
There
they
might have been
decided to
earlier
cut
signs.
way back.
I wonder if there were even earlier signs too. Like, for instance, if you and I paid money for this property, right? We paid money for Karate Kid. One thing we would almost definitely do if we were going to make this cartoon is we would also look at how many copies a month it was being rented and sold. In 1989, we would care about that a lot. Did they?
During creation, I doubt this was actually in for video rental. It premiered in April, so video rentals probably about June.
Well, for the first
Probably
movie
August.
and this, I'm thinking the first two movies we would be looking at. We'd be able to look at that. That's what's existent, right?
Yeah.
And the second movie is already
popular.
like movie number 2 is from like 1987. Movie number 4 is from like 1985, right? They're about to destroy themselves with movie number 3.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, but the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. During production of this cartoon is when
This movie
3
got
would have
released.
come out. Yeah.
Right. 3 comes out in April. This was released in September. That seems to track, especially in the time frame of that period.
Yeah, they would have been in primary animation at that point.
Do you think that when they were doing this, they were like had even the foresight to say, how is the old product doing? Is there any regard for this? Like, was it everything? Like, did they see all signs? Like, not only did this movie fail, but this last 2 months was the first 2 months since the release of the first movie that like we're not in the top 10 at all with any of the Karate Kid videos. It's not being the top 10 rentals or the top 10 sales. No one cares about this anymore.
Yeah, because the failure came out of nowhere. I'm sure they're all excited. Yeah, I'm sure they're all excited that, oh yeah, we got this property. We're gonna do a good job. We're gonna ride this out until Karate Kid Part 4, and then we're gonna get a season 2. Then number 3 tanks out of nowhere and say, oh, we're fucked. We gotta cut some costs here.
I would guess that you're right. It's a bizarre and strange cartoon. To be sure, it seems like they lifted basically the Johnny Quest idea. He's running around mostly in the jungle. The jungle is easy to draw.
Yeah, he's going from place to place. It's a good setup, but they could have used a better first episode. I think they just dropped the first episode where they meet the girl and they lose the statue and then go on their adventure, because usually that's the big price tag for everything, because you jump mid into the adventure,
and it's way too hokey very soon.
Yeah,
it's way hokey, like Ewok level, shockingly hokey.
Yeah, they as I said, I think they're working on it. They're getting the bulk of the series drawn and done. The disaster hits, and then massive cutbacks. Hey, Tim, welcome.
And looks a couple other people just joined us. It's nice of you to be here. We're just wrapping up today's cartoon. We saw the interstitial, I guess we'd call it an interquel, between the world of Danny's Karate Kid and the world of Cobra Kai exists. Karate Kid, the animated series. Was that a good upsell?
Yeah. Yeah, the show isn't a complete disaster. It's
no,
at least it's watchable.
It's watchable. There was some other idea that was strong enough that they just were like, lay it off onto a mashup of Scooby-Doo and Johnny Quest, and just like, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get like 2 years out of it. The thing is, we've already paid, and if we just call it like, you know, like world-spanning adventures, like, you know, we're building up for this Carmen Sandiego show we're gonna make, so we need like locations and we need people to get experience in doing this anyway. So let's just work on that, because this looked very Carmen Sandiego, but it's about 18 months too soon.
Oh no, the video games are being made for Carmen Sandiego already.
Then we might be after the game, and that we're after the game.
And the series is about 10 years away.
It's about 10 weeks away.
10 years away. 10 years.
10 years away. Whoa, yeah. So this is 1991 and the cartoon's 2001. It takes that long. Wait, 89
Carmen San
and
Diego.
99. Sorry. That makes
Carmen
sense.
San Diego come out until like 2000 or 1997, 1998. I believe. I believe it was 1997.
It's gotta be at least 30 years old because my friend's now like 35. He just
Yeah.
celebrated his birthday. And I remember his uncle, who I'm the friend with, got him Carmen San Diego stuff for his birthday when he was like
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. Is that yeah? Tim said the Carmen San Diego game came out in 1985. There's a series of
There you
games in the
go.
80s. The cartoon show didn't come out until the mid to late 90s.
At least not the one we're familiar with. There might have been a foray or
Yeah.
something that we're
There was
unaware of.
yeah, there
Maybe a
was an
one-time
interlude.
event.
There was a kids game show in the early
There
90s.
was cartoons inside the game show for a moment.
Yeah, there's little
Yes.
clips of just like
We're talking 5 seconds.
Carmen running away. Yeah, 5-second clips, stuff like that. But it was the basic computer game. Then in the early 90s, it jumps to the kids' game show. Then it transitions into the cartoon.
Carmen San Diego, like it basically it left you with trivia. It was left over from a time where people felt like I don't want my children watching some mindless cartoon. I want it to have some value. And that's why like I guess my parents were happy to see me turn on Doctor Who instead of like the next like, Scooby-Doo thing, like Scooby-Doo Babies or whatever was around when I was a kid. The next iteration of
Oh,
Scooby-Doo,
holy crap,
watch
that was
like
1994.
I thought so.
Those must have been old episodes when it premiered on Fox Kids.
I had a feeling that this was older than we thought it was because God damn, I hate to say this, but I remember I was like a grown ass man. And like at this point, like had family members and friends with like children of their own or nieces and nephews of their own. So at this point in history, I know a decent amount about what's going on in kids culture. My niece is born in like 1997.
Yeah, it just sounds wrong that it's that early.
It's doesn't sound wrong to me, but you were saying I
Yeah,
was not about to Google it, and I didn't know enough to, and I
yeah,
try to never contradict the host.
1994. No, contradict me when I'm wrong.
You know what? It wasn't
It
it's
didn't
the kind of
premiere
thing
on
that
Fox Kids until later, I thought.
and it premiered because it was around. It premiered because it had been made. They made more because there was already some. Like there was someone doing a little bit of Carmen San Diego animation from like the 80s. As we said, there's a first game show and a first game, and then it seems logical. They're like they threw the story to the people who did the interstitial like cartoons that were part of the game show. It made sense that those people would be the ones who did it, so it would look the same. But they didn't know a whole lot about story, so it's basic. But this show is like it's the godfather, it's the grandfather or godfather of that show. What of Carmen San Diego? What do you think? Trench coated characters running around the world, right? A
Yeah,
magic device.
they're both in the same genre.
And
Let's see
some
here.
notable similarities.
Have you done Star
No,
Wars Ewoks yet? No.
we should
I
watch that.
haven't intentionally avoided any Disney properties.
You know what? Just to be honest, that might be like a worthwhile. Here's the thing: it's still George Lucas, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe try to get
and it was
Tom
made
Chadwick.
before. It
So
was made before the Disney takeover.
the problem with that one
You-
is Chado would have to know who we were.
Yeah.
Chado is really cool, and I think that he would probably like if he was friends with someone, he would definitely do that. But like, we don't know Chado, unfortunately. I kind of barely know Latino slant because I know Fletcher, and Fletcher has been on my show, but I wouldn't say I strongly know any of these people. But that would be like an ideal person to have. First of all, he's hilarious.
Yeah, I as far as that goes, all I
The
know is I
invitation is offered.
recognize the name. Yeah.
Paul Chato is related to the whole Midnight's Edge and Chris Gore family of shows that are sort of interwoven there. And he could show up on either one. I forget which one he's more heavily associated with, but he's Canadian. He has a certain political opinion. He has a certain Disney opinion. He makes his views very well known. He's retired from, I think he says Canadian broadcasting. So like that's his expertise is that he's written TV and he's probably like made creative choices and who knows if he's appeared, but he understands how to write and construct TV. So that's his expertise, if I remember correctly. And what he might have been doing is also comedy punch ups, like adding jokes to scripts because he's funny. He's very very funny, and he makes
Yeah.
comical observations now. And on other shows, they're like, what went wrong? And he's like, it would be my impression that during the production process, and he could speak to that stuff with a degree of expertise.
Yeah.
So yeah, Paul Chato, interesting guy. He's a little older, but not much older than us. He's a cool guy. We'd love to have him. Chato is officially invited right now. I'm gonna make. Can I do that on your behalf?
Definitely.
Okay, I am on behalf of Resolute Germ. I, Admiral Teague, officially invite Chato on. Should you want Chato, all you got to do DM us. We send you the pass immediately. We would love to have you by, and we'll change the format. You can just tell us which cartoon you want to watch, and we'll put it on.
Yeah. If you want to
All the
watch
cartoons in
Ewoks
the
since
world,
you're on Ewoks,
we'll put it
or
on.
if you
We'll,
want to
we'll make
talk
it
about
happen.
something else, we'll talk about pretty much whatever.
I'll go into a little bit of debt, and I'll buy the cartoon off of YouTube, and we'll watch it. Although I don't know how much more time you want to spend here, but I did notice something that maybe people who watch and subscribe to YouTube might be interested in. Depends on whether you want to have the conversation.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Did you see the YouTube price hike and the YouTube Lite that's coming?
I had not. I
So the
don't pay for
YouTube is
YouTube,
going.
and I don't plan to pay for YouTube.
I had paid for YouTube because until now it was logical, right? It was the second cheapest service. The cheapest service I think I have is Paramount Plus, which is like only like 10 or 12 bucks a month. It's not bad. And I recommend that one, by the way, because aside from Star Trek, it's good. But YouTube is going up about 50%. So in order to keep it from being too painful and having everybody bolt, they think what's going on is, and this is why you can see the thinning out of the YouTube numbers and the change in the YouTube demographics and the drive down in overall YouTube numbers is this. There has to be a fair and better accounting of who is watching, and it has to be like really codified for them to charge money for commercials. But coming soon, guys, for what you're paying now for premium is YouTube Lite, less ads. Because so many people have an ad blocker that they're able to just blow through the ads all the time. Half as many people have to watch twice as many ads. That's the YouTube justification.
Gee, that's terrific logic. Oh, we have less ads. Yeah, that's going to make me
Well,
turn off my ad blocker.
the counter logic is we would overcome, defeat, and destroy your ad blocker, and that might be overly expensive, a never-ending escalation, and also like make you unpopular. Like that's a very Lars Ulrich thing to do. It's like I tried to watch YouTube and they broke my ad browser for my ad blocker for everything. You know what I mean? Like that's so they can't like do you one better. That's been shown to be not allowed. And we saw what happens when you give someone something for free, like with you too, when they gave away that record. So there's only limited remedies for this. So YouTube's feeling is that if they have commercials, but not enough that you super notice, you won't remember to stop paying for the premium at like I think it's 11 now when it goes up to like 17 or whatever it's going to next. I don't know the exact numbers. I haven't looked at it. I've had YouTube Premium because the YouTube Music service comes for free with it. Although I would point out that if you have YouTube, you already have YouTube Music.
Yeah.
The only reason I keep
I
YouTube Music is it brings down the price of regular YouTube for me to keep it. They're like, we'll give you a discount on YouTube to keep our bad music service. I still have an old deal. Apparently it's not. Like everything we
yeah.
say is to the best of our knowledge. We are not news reporters. We are YouTubers. We are somewhat in the know on YouTube. The other thing that we heard is the price of making this has doubled. The price of doing this has doubled. Some of us luckier than others based on the plan you had before. But essentially, I guess the best way to put it is YouTube now to create it, the price for the most popular software and the easiest software, turn it on and go, is up. What is it? 100%?
Damn. Damn near
Up about
100%.
100,
Yeah.
damn near 100%, about 85% up. Crazy, just crazy. And so all of us are, your average YouTuber already lived, if you were only YouTube only, you already lived on like chili dogs and like, whatever steamer tray food you could steal. Like Pizza Rat was probably, first of all, that's a YouTube sounding handle and was probably
Yeah.
a YouTuber. Yeah, he probably just put on he was probably like a fuzzy whose outfit degraded to the point it was unrecognizable from a rat. A furry, sorry, whose outfit was unrecognizable from a rat. And he went out there and he just decided to go foraging around and he took on the New York City subway and he grabbed that pizza. Or in the case of Pigeon Rat, similar stuff, but they were both probably YouTubers. YouTube, after having a video do 1,000 views in one day as an AdSense monetized YouTuber, let me tell you something, guys. It's not very lucrative at all.
Yeah.
Are
We're
the big guys
fighting that
being
rat for that pizza.
Yeah, we are fighting the rat for the pizza. So could you give my friend Germ something that doesn't cost any money? It's the cryptocurrency that you mint yourself. Just give him a like. Help him out by boosting him, giving him a like. I have been, a dedicated fan of this show for a couple years now, and I've been co-hosting on and off for a few months. Sometimes Gorilla is here. He's been doing nothing but getting better as an analyst and giving you something of value and transformative in its nature. So just if you could hit that like, and the other thing that YouTube likes, and you can remember this for everyone. This is not like an ask just for us, but for everyone, like tweeting that someone's live off the browser, YouTube likes that. That's free advertising for that. They're like, I like this guy. The thing is, YouTube doesn't look at it as you advertise yourself off YouTube. They look at it as you advertise YouTube. You're advertising YouTube for free when you tweet out off our browser that we're live. So YouTube's like, okay, this guy just gave us like 1/10 of a cent worth of publicity. Let's open up 1/10 of a cent more signal and see if it keeps going that way. I mean, I'm not right on the numbers, but I'm right on the analogy. Germ, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Because if you go through the share button, they register that. If you just copy
And
the
it
link
changes their
yourself,
feeling. They don't
yeah,
know.
they don't know that if you just copy the link and put it into X yourself. But if you hit that share button, YouTube knows, and YouTube will be just a little bit kinder to us.
Most people will not do what we do. What we do is this: we show you the show and then we talk about the show. We accept a huge donut hole in our analytic and we only get good views at the beginning and the end because this is the high now. We're at about 5 people, and I welcome all of you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for everyone being here.
we really appreciate it. We just I found this channel because it was so much fun, and Germ and I met through a great guy named Bird of Prey 5 that some of you may have heard of. And you know what? I look forward to tonight when we're going to do Enterprise, but let's talk more about this. If you want this Karate Kid cartoon, or if you want to talk to people about what's coming next week, or I don't know, general takeaways. I've become much more literate in animation thanks to watching this with you.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about watching all these cartoons. You see the differences in production level, how it progressed over time.
and the uneven levels of production, like story
Yeah.
good, animation awful. That happens like in different proportions. Like animation great, story shit. Like it doesn't come together a lot. Like not everything is Battleship Yamato.
Yeah. But you can't hold everything up to the anime standard. They are very,
Well,
very exacting with that.
they are so old that the word anime had to be invented to describe them. They're after Speed Racer, but before anything else. And I mean, by before, I mean a whole lot before, like close to 20 years before Dragon Ball. Not
Yeah,
fully
they're
20,
this.
but close, very close.
Yeah, Dragon Ball was the original Dragon Ball 80, early 80s, mid 80s.
And that's when the term starts to crop up in American
Yeah.
vocabularies. But I mean, you have to wait 20 years to hear that word used with any regularity. It's Cartoon Network's daytime, mid afternoon for adults and for young adults and for young, full grown adults who are still young at heart lineup
Yeah.
where you could watch like Dragon Ball Z and
Yeah.
like
Toonami really sold it to people.
Ninja Scrolls,
Yeah.
um, all that great stuff. And it was the thing was like that's when the word anime starts to be used in Western language. And if I'm correct, anime just means animation to the Asian world, right? Like that's the way they
Yeah.
pronounce it. Or the French? Is it the
Uh,
French?
it's,
The
it's
anime?
that's just what the Japanese use for animation. It's shorthand for animation.
They definitely can't use that, right? Because they have a different alphabet and different letters. So it's some Western culture's take on their word.
Yeah,
We may have got
it's
the French word.
what it's what they say now because English has so much influenced their language and culture at this point that it's just the term they use.
It's but and by that we mean we haven't. I haven't. You've been to Asia. I haven't been. Although you've been to what's called the Western part of Asia, where it's Western culture. I have not been to Asia to watch this with them,
Yeah, and
so I don't know. Like
I've been there
anime to me,
minimally. It's
edge
the
of Asia.
American part of Asia.
I would call it the European, but the Western European part of Asia because it's mostly influenced by like TV, the BBC, our biggest show, but the mainstay is the BBC.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, Star Trek is nowhere near as big as Doctor Who. Hey, Cam Cam. Hello, German Teague, he
Hey, Cam
says.
Cam.
Would you like to take this one? I think
No, go
it
ahead.
looks like I got it more or less right. Okay. I'm going to put my reading skills to work here. Cam Cam's Crash Courses, who's one of our amazing mods, says hello. And hello to you, Cam Cam. It's good to see you, my friend. Hello, German Teague. Paul, he's talking about Chato here. That's Chato's first name. Paul was an executive at Canadian Broadcaster and founding member of improv and skit comedy troupe. Okay. The Frantics. I have not heard of, I did not know that particular specific, but that makes sense. Known for a character called Mr. Canoe Head. He's on Midnight's Edge. Okay. He also, I think, is sometimes talking with Chris Gore and is friendly with Chris Gore. He is definitely on Midnight's Edge a lot. And he does his own videos a lot. And he's a very opinionated guy. And I think, was it his Twitter that he lost or was it his YouTube that he lost? I think it was more likely his YouTube. These days, one is a lot easier to lose than the other.
Yeah. It'd probably have been to YouTube.
We don't know. But on that one, yeah, like the peasants are
Yeah.
revolting. Which we can't say
Yeah,
exactly what you said there.
for the last 300 years.
The libertines, as we would call them. You know what, guys? It's really nice that you join us. Do we talk? Dare we speak of this evening? Is that it's up to you? You're setting the topic here.
I do not know what that is. You know what that is, Tig?
Which I bet Teague listened to Isa. Oh, Isa. A is that a treaty organization or is that just Aisha, the rap artist? Let me see what it comes back as on Google. It's recognizable in a couple of ways. Yeah, all I got is Arizona State Association
Yeah.
of International Schools in Africa. AISA. AISA promotes diverse, equitable, inclusive, and a just community for all educators and students. Without knowing any more about it, I don't know if I support them, but that one word description is something that who would disagree with that sentence? That's like kind of like pretty safe thing to be. You know what? I am in favor of teaching everyone how to read too. How about you, Jerem?
Yeah.
No problem with it whatsoever. I think even the government might be willing to. It might be best for all of us if the government parted with enough money to make sure everyone could read.
He means Asia.
Asia. I did listen to Asia. I enjoyed the first record. I wanted to go see them, and I was too young. My mom wouldn't let me. And you know what? When they came back again with the Weird Asia, I was old enough to see them, and I didn't. But then they didn't work out, and I saw Emerson Lake and Powell, which was Emerson Lake and Palmer with Cozy Powell, who became the drummer for a later version of Black Sabbath, but had previously played with Rainbow and other great bands and was a great drummer. So I saw Emerson Lake and Powell. I never saw Asia, unfortunately. Not the easiest thing to do. Asia was a super group. Are you familiar with Asia?
I've
Resolute
heard
Germ. You
one
were
or
being
two
born.
songs. Yeah, that's
If
a little
you
early
look to
for me.
my
I've heard maybe a couple songs.
Everyone knows what year the album came out because it says it in the biggest song. And now you find yourself at 82.
Yeah, I wasn't born for another couple years.
You catch a paw and ride the dragon's wings. It was the heat of the moment, telling me what my heart meant. Yeah, I had that album. I loved it. I loved every song on it. And my favorite song was Wildest Dreams, or We Fight for King and Country. I love both of those songs. I think they're great. And the best Asia song to be released as a single was Soul Survivor. That's my favorite Asia single. But I do love The Lie Is Over and Heat of the Moment. They are great songs. And what happened was that was a surprising band because it was a super group that was a mashup of Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer with a new singer. But a keyboard player from a later version of Yes, not the well-known guy. The primary, most well-known guitar player from Yes, Steve Howe, and the bass player singer doesn't work out. And the drummer is Cozy Powell, who was from Richie Blackmore and Dio's band Rainbow, which was a successor band to famous Deep Purple, which is just Cozy Powell already had his own following and reputation, was well known as a great drummer. So it was Cozy Powell is around, but what happens is Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer is the drummer from Asia. The singer bass player from Asia, he doesn't work out. They don't get along with him. Or Greg Lake becomes available and his friend gets him in the band. Asia doesn't work out because they throw out their singer bass player for a different singing bass player. They throw him out for the singer bass player from the band Emerson Lake and Palmer. Remember them?
Not really.
All right, let's see if you remember this one. He had white horses and ladies by the score, all dressed in white satin, aligned at his door. Ooh, what a lucky man he was.
I think I've heard that on the radio.
Ooh, what a lucky man he was. It sounds a lot like the music for Whiskey in the Jar and a lot like the music for Whiter Shade of Pale because it's the same keyboard player as those two songs.
I
I'm
probably
pretty
heard the
sure.
song, but that's
Lucky
about
Man
it.
by Emerson Lake and Palmer. Oh wait, no, it was Greg Lake is the keyboard player. Sorry, my brain part there, but it's in similar style to that. It's similar to the guy who did Whiter Shade of Pale. Like Greg Lake is just he was one of the first people to have like some form of a synthesizer that he self creates, where he's able to have a gritty keyboard sound. He has a jazz organ and he has a piano all at once, and he's using all three interchangeably. Their band has no guitar player, just a singing bass player, which is weird because you should have a guitar player because the bass is sort of already incorporated in the keyboards. They had a keyboard player, a bass player who sang, and a drummer. Asia had that lineup plus a guitar player, but they swap out the keyboard player for a guy named Alan Nichols, I believe his name, and the guitar player is Steve Howe from early and classic Yes, and then returns to Yes later. These were all big time known guys. Asia was a big deal. Oh, we're lighting a candle for some of the guys in Asia. Yeah, we lost the Tangerine Dream singer. Wait, no, John Anderson's still with us. We've got John Anderson, guys. Although I don't think he can sing anymore. He has respiratory issues. He does occasionally tour and do what he can. I think that's part of a larger band of older rock stars.
Yeah, that's something you notice a lot more. All these 80s bands are back out there on the road.
If you want to talk about one more thing, there was an interesting thing I talked about on my show too with the Van Halen reunion tribute that couldn't have Eddie Van Halen from last summer, and Alex Van Halen breaking his silence. Did you hear that story?
Yeah, I believe I was there when you said it.
Right. Isn't that a shocker? So for those who didn't catch this one, there was a Van Halen tour or a proposal for a Van Halen tour because neither of us cared enough to find out if this happened because it was so far removed from being Van Halen or any kind of Van Halen. But apparently it was both Sam and Dave went out there together and they buried their hatchet. And I mean, whether he was part of it or not, I'm sure Wolfie was invited to be part of it, and they invited Alex Van Halen to be part of it. And this is now a sure thing. If you get Wolfie and you get Sam and Dave and you call it a Van Halen tribute, it's now a sure thing. And Alex Van Halen said that one of his things that he had asked about was if they would have video tributes and images shown of Eddie Van Halen behind them while they're playing. And he said no. David Lee Roth said no. And that's when Alex Van Halen said, I wouldn't sign off on this even happening or call it legitimate. And they're like, so what about you not replying to Sammy Hagar? And he revealed that and we don't have the right to subpoena anyone's medical record. The way it was described is not only is he unable to play, but since at least April, he's been unable to move. So he did not return text messages to Sammy Hagar. When Sammy Hagar was asked about it, Sammy Hagar replied that he just thought that he snubbed him because then what happened was within a few weeks, there was an auction on eBay, and I guess maybe at an auction house too, but he sold off in some capacity. We're not a news organization, disclaimer, right? But he sold off and auctioned off his drums. And I was surprised by how little of it was autographed, which would have driven up any value, right? So that was like notable. So what happens is in 2002, he broke like 3 of his vertebrae picking up his son.
Wow.
He's been in various states of bad backhood since then. And in 2023, at a gun range, the last straw happened. He was firing a gun, shooting recreationally, and it popped something in his back, and that's it since then. And I don't know enough to talk more about it. Like, as you can see, we only can talk as fast as the slowest AI. We're mixing and matching different metaphors that YouTube just hates now. And so we have to say it. And to you guys listening in other platforms, we're not even allowed to say the names of the broadcaster you're on, and we'll get throttled even more. So those of you on YouTube listening, we thank you for listening. So Alex Van Halen, recreation, his particular form of recreation led to a problem. He says he cannot move. What that means, I don't know.
Or at least he could not move at one time.
The interview is dated October, so it's fairly currently unable to move. He had validated he was unable to move in a fairly current time, according to best of my knowledge. And I did read this in a relatively clickbaity article, but here's the thing: it was then on Beto, which has been recommended to me by members of my chat, by members of my channel chat, and Beto is fairly reliable when it comes to information. So I would say that this seems to be true.
Yeah, that's terrible
it's
news.
Very sad. Well, first, it's the worst news for Alex Van Halen. I'm sure it upset him that his brother wasn't going to be honored, but it makes sense that he didn't text Sammy Hagar to update him. He's like, shit, because this is now 6 months from April. He might have been like, I'll do it in a couple of days when when my fingers stop tingling or when they start to tingle, whatever he said to himself. Or I don't feel like speaking to the person who sends texts for me now, or my assistant isn't even bothering me. I've told my assistant I don't want to be bothered. That's the level of wealth he had. Now things are going to change because Mr. Van Halen now has really bad health problems. If this article's true, and I think Germ joins me. Like we wish Alex Van Halen the best.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we loved your music. We love you as a musician. But there's been evidence that he's had problems going back about 15 years where he appeared in a neck brace and wouldn't explain it. And people were just like, that's weird. We think it was just a bizarre fashion statement, like he's goofing around. Like he must be goofing around. But he has the one instrument that if you have mobility issues, really it's going to hurt more than anything else. It'll hit, you know what I mean? Like Peter Frampton was hit with mobility issues of a progressive nature. And what he did, he said, I'm going to go on a 2-year farewell tour because he had that kind of sunset.
Yeah. This seems like it just, he ignored it for years and then all of a sudden pop, and
he didn't even ignore it. I think what happened was for years he did all the things that doctors would advise. It looks like Mr. Van Halen continued to use, you know, conventional medical advice, like for instance using the neck brace, and then you know when he did have his problem, like we know what he says happened. He's not a doctor, and we're not doctors, so we're reporting a non-doctor's account of what happened to something, and we just don't know. We weren't there. We don't know Mr. Van Halen personally. We can only wish him well. And we can only hope it's not as bad as he says, or what he says doesn't last, because we want the best for this guy who we liked as a kid. I looked up to the Van Halen brothers. I was like, it must be cool to be friends with your brother and be in a band making millions of bucks, right?
yeah, some great songs.
There are some great songs. My favorite Van Halen song might be, let me think, Unchained. There's really not Van Halen after David Lee Roth, to me.
I don't really make the distinction.
You had to be born. You didn't live in a world that had Van Halen with David Lee Roth. The first Van Halen you heard had no David Lee Roth. Just like the first Black Sabbath I heard didn't have Ozzy Osbourne. The first Black Sabbath I heard had Dio. Hey Cody, guy, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Cody.
We're talking about the era that this show is from and the show. Any questions you have? Basically, we're entertaining all topics here while Germ is in control and the host. And we're engaging you on any topic you want. In the shameless part of the discussion, just as we keep going, hey, we got a gem for everybody tonight. You ready for Shuttle Pod 1?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great episode. One of the highlights of the series.
We have watched a bunch of episodes where we've said, this is a high quality episode, but it's not a top 5 or top 10. That's simply because Enterprise, for the most part, was a really good episode to episode show. And what I found out here is it seems like the UPN was leaning on Enterprise really heavily. I don't know whether we end with like a 3-part story followed by part 1 of a 2-part story, because as we get towards the end and start getting close to episode 20, the standard TV series is 22 episodes. I think you were there. Ladies and gentlemen, the first season of Star Trek Enterprise has, guess how many episodes? Do you remember? Hi, DJ Ronnie G. Yes, that line will be in tonight's episode. Yeah. And as a friend of the channel,
very true.
It is very true. That part of her is not covered in a shield. DJ Ronnie G, I want to thank you. You've been hanging in here with us the whole time. It's people like you who make this work. It's people like you that keeps YouTube turned on. Yeah, thank you, buddy. Really do. That line is in tonight's episode. This episode was like, I think my one-liner for this one would be, it's Apollo 13, but in space.
Yeah.
Right? Apollo 13, sorry. Characters. Apollo 13 is already in space. Let me rephrase that. It's Apollo 13, but Trek style.
Apollo 13, but interesting.
Apollo
I have Kevin Bacon and Tom Hanks hamming it up.
I Kevin Bacon literally hamming it up. Good play on words there, Gerb. I gotta be honest. I like Apollo 13. I like it because it's a true story and they stay relatively close to true events. I like it because, and we said this when we watched Yellowstone, and I think we'll have more 1883 coming for people because people seem to like that one. But we said this when we watched 1883. There was a scene where Tom Hanks walks on out of fucking nowhere. Out of fucking nowhere. And I think I speak for Germ when I say I was personally floored by his 2 lines and his 2 minutes in 1883. It was powerful. It was well filmed. And he elevated everything around him, including the scenery.
I didn't even recognize him until you pointed it out. That
I
beard does a lot to
recognized
cover it.
because the beard had a facelift built into it. The beard it's a different kind of fake beard. It was a new and more well thought out fake beard than we saw before. Previously, what happened with fake beards were they made a wig and they glued it to your face and the hair came out in a wig like manner. It looked like a toupee. It looked like a wig. What they did with Tom Hanks, I believe, this is my guess, and I don't know. I'm not a makeup expert, but if I'm wrong on this one, I don't think it's litigious. My guess on Tom Hanks' makeup and why he looked different was simply this. They gave him the most basic of de-aging. In one, some covering and flattering makeup. Two, fused out by a CGI filter that smoothed the effect. But three, this was cutting edge fake beard tech because either A, he has a real beard, and a lot of times he does, but you can't count on it with Tom Hanks, and you can't count on that was 10 months beard growth, untrimmed. He had a gratuitous beard. I think what they did was his beard piece was makeup with latex to the bottom of his eye sockets to cover up the part where the beard was fake and goes into your face like a wig. It was designed to make the top of his beard line uneven and weird, like our beard lines are. Like our beard line's not symmetric. You know how your mustache grows just a little different on both sides and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was an attempt to make it less uncanny. And I'm going to say, home run. You made his fake beard totally believable. And the fact was that there was a ridge of makeup that was smoother than the rest of his skin that covered up the aged cheeks from below the eye sockets to the top of the beard line. That, I believe, was a solid line of makeup. Think Gowron here. Or think Ferengis here. You know what I mean? But no jellyfish head. Just from the side, from his bottom of your eyebrows down to create the mask effect for the wig, right? Because I'm assuming he was able to grow in a full mustache and have upper lip mobility. That was and had enough of a goatee to weave stuff in on his jaw. That was for the sides of his beard and the sides of his face. So with the filter, the lighting, and the makeup effect, they were able to de-age Tom because Tom's what 63, 64, and they made him appear about 45 to 50. Would you say?
Yeah, they did took a good 20 or so years off of him.
The thing is, Tom Hanks looks every bit his age right now, plus a few years, because Tom Hanks has never really given a shit about his appearance. As far as Tom Hanks is one of those celebrities who puts on jeans and a t-shirt and a suit jacket. And the cool thing about Tom Hanks is if you're getting married and you're having your wedding reception in Central Park, or you're having your wedding pictures taken in Central Park because you just don't have a lot of money and you live in New York City, he might jog by and take pictures with you and your family and be super nice for like 20 minutes before he jogs on and jogs away. And then the other side of the coin is he might show up on TV and wag his finger at you for a while. But when he showed up in 1883, he looked 20 years younger. He said 3 words in 2 different lines. It was like, yeah. And then he put his hand on the guy's shoulder and he, comforted him. Sat down on this burned out box in this middle of this battlefield next to him in what I'm assuming was an almost completely CGI environment. And this is how to use it. They managed to get so much more depth of field and quality out of that by having the horses run from behind and cross the camera again in front, doubling the amount of horse per dollar. It was a very smart production and not making Tom Hanks get off the horse. But yeah, when we see Tom Hanks, he looks like himself. He's got his Tom Hanks voice, but he's not totally the Tom Hanks we saw yesterday on TV. If it was 2024 Tom Hanks. He doesn't look like 2024 Tom Hanks. he looked like 2004 or 1994 Tom Hanks. Maybe more like I would say 2004, 2010.
Probably 2004. Yeah, a
He
good
looked
20
like
years younger.
45-year-old Tom Hanks. But yeah, because Tom Hanks is what, 65 now, roughly.
I'm not sure
He's
about
younger
that.
than Harrison by a lot. Let me ask my assistant. Tom's 68. They made him look 50, is my opinion. So Tom Hanks
Yeah,
looked like
that's
Tom
about
Hanks,
right.
but he looked like Tom Hanks too long ago to be in this. But then, like, by the time you look at him long enough, and it was well directed, we looked at him just long enough. Remember when we watched it, I was like, is that Tom Hanks? And we lost the
Yeah.
rest of the sequence just trying to figure out if it was him. So at the end, what we did was like the good reviewers we are, we went back and we rewatched just the Tom Hanks 2 minutes. And it changed the tone in the course of the episode and the seriousness of the entire series, I would say. With just 2 minutes and 3 words, he goes, yeah. And he sits down, and the character that he's comforting has just seen great loss at war. And he's on the other side, by the way. And Tom Hanks looks at this guy and he nods his head and just goes, I know. And then they both look into like the sunset across its devastation. And the camera lingers on these two men from behind and then from the side. And then we step away. It was very Western. It was very beautiful. It was very poetic. It was also very small, very low scale, and very, 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 very inexpensively done with a fantastic use of resources. Just fantastic. See, it's filmed for like 300 grand or less. That whole scene. That's probably the most expensive 2 minutes they had too. But I don't think he took much money for it, if any. He's
No, he
friends
is
with.
there. Yeah, he's
Go ahead.
friends with the
Actor.
main actor, and he would have done that at as low as the union would allow him to.
You know, there's something that you guys should know about. There's a team called the New York Mets, and they had a pitcher named Tug McGraw. Have you ever heard of Tug McGraw?
I've heard the name.
Tug the Tugger McGraw was one of the greatest pitchers in all of New York Met history. And then he left town and had a storied career moving around, but he was on the 69 Miracle Mets along with Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver and all these great players, right? And the New York Mets had Tug McGraw. His son is Tim McGraw. His father was a New York Met on the 1969 Miracle Mets who won the World Series. And today we are going to see do we have a travel day for the National League today, or have we made it to Los Angeles since last night? But we have one championship game in the form of the Yankees today.
Then it should be tomorrow because they're trading off days.
We have a Yellowstone connection with the New York Mets. It's that Tug McGraw from the 69 Miracle Mets is the father of country star turned actor Tim McGraw. And I'll just say this, Tim McGraw is a really good actor in this. And so is Faith Hill. I was surprised, and I know Germ was too. So we'll be probably watching some more 1883, and tonight we have a fantastic episode of Enterprise. I'm looking forward to watching it with all of you and with you, Germ, because I know that this is always a fun conversation. And I guess let's ask the Peanut Gallery, when is the best day to drop a YouTube upload? I've always heard conventional wisdom is the end of the weekend on the first weekday morning.
Monday does okay for shorts, I've noticed. People
might carry over to
uploads at a weekend.
Need something to download on your way to work in parts of this country where you can't get internet, especially and including where I live, where if I take the subway, I lose Wi-Fi signal for like, my network's not in the freaking subway.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you think, go ahead.
Never really had luck with uploads on Mondays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays have been good for uploads from what I've seen. But that's only the little stuff I do.
You know what? That sounds about right. I would believe it. You know what? What's going on for me? I don't know about you right now. Is uploads kind of are making up for a difference in a crackdown. YouTube's business model is changing, guys. YouTube's going to do business in a different way in the future. We might even go live with a little talk show this afternoon about it before our Enterprise Watch tonight, because people are going to need to know a few things. And also, whereas I would have gone on at 5 p.m. and stayed on until midnight, YouTube had a really strong wag of the finger at me for that. And every time I have defied it since they told me you're too big to do this bullshit anymore. And that's exactly the way they put it, in a very nice way. It's a very nice paraphrasing of how they put it. They're like, you're too big to do this bullshit anymore. You're monetized now. Fuck you. And so they kind of expose your longer shows to what I would call attack and damage. I was attacked and damaged for doing longer shows. And when I went to them, they're like, you did the right thing by telling us, because now we know it wasn't you. However, we've taken zapping your channel for cheating off the table. But you know what? The best thing we can do here is keep all the AdSense money that you generated, reset this to 0, and destroy the stats on the back of your baseball card. So that was my Tommy John season, that watch party that was 12 hours long and has 36 views. But they're like, F you. And also they're like, we don't like your thumbnails. That's why we won't defend your channel, which is why I sometimes talk about thumbnail school. The bottom line is YouTube wants YouTube content to be recognizable as coming from YouTube, whether it has the YouTube label on it or not. And they also want it to conform in certain ways. Like, they don't want my show to be more than, say, 3 hours tops. The good news is I'm no longer have an appetite for going beyond 5. So I'll break rules and I'll do things differently. And I will only run off the air when the swarm bots come. But as far as that goes, I now have started curating the Enterprise episodes into conversations that I upload later. And that just gets a different audience. And that put on a lot of subscribers who simply don't like live. So I'm in a world now where YouTube's like 2/3 less angry with me. They're like, your shows are nice. We like you. You're a 2 hour and 58-minute guy. You're a good person. Your thumbnails are nice. We like you. You're a good person. And then I guess the last way is like, you make uploads now. You're nice. You're a good person. And they're like, you need to make shorts. We're not overly thrilled with you. If you're a good person, good people make shorts. That would be the way they put it.
Yeah. I've had some of those emails myself. Kind of like talking to a Stepford wife.
It kind of is, and it's kind of freeing to talk to you about it here, because you know what, guys, on Resolute Germ's channel, he's got a major amount of supporters here. To get to 600 is very difficult. If you're listening now and you haven't joined already, I would advise doing so. These after the cartoon roundtables, we get into stuff that we have to walk a little more on tiptoes on my channel, because YouTube just cracks down, and Germ's getting his watch hours. He will be monetized soon enough, and a mighty YouTuber he is. Oh, if we give people that Ewoks thing, you'll have a lot more concurrence right away. There's a few things you could do right away.
Yeah, definitely.
Stick with me, kid. I'll make you a star. But one of the luckiest things that happened to me, and I'm going to be honest with everybody who's listening, if you care, YouTube, one of the things that's great about it is you meet a lot of people. YouTube, what sucks about it is you meet a lot of people who are fucked up. I met Germ through a really great intermediary, Bird of Prey 5, and Germ's not fucked up. In fact, Germ is the kind of guy who'll help out a friend. How do I know? Me and him parachuted down for what was supposed to be a group watch by Bird of Prey 5. Bird of Prey 5, this is about 18 months ago now, maybe a little more, about 20 months.
Something
We've
like
known
that,
each other a while now. Let's call it just about 2 years ago. Germ and I jumped down, and there's a date on the upload for it, and you should watch some of Bird of Prey 5's watch parties and shows and some of his content. Bird of Prey 5, a mighty Star Trek warrior, he was doing an Enterprise watch party, and Germ and I beamed down to hang out with Bird, and he surprised us by saying, guys, I want to do my show, but man, I got a banger of a headache, and I feel like shit. would you do the play-by-play for me and I'll come back? And we're like, of course we will, buddy, of course. And then we apologized to the audience. And some of you were there and you were really kind to us. You stuck with us through that. And we did, when we do that episode of Enterprise, I think it's in season 2 with Padma Lakshmi and Trip. They
I
get
believe
stuck
it
on
was
a planet.
the catwalk episode.
It was, I think, the catwalk, and it's funny it should be called that because what we had was a supermodel, Padma Lakshmi, the first Bollywood supermodel, and man, she's a really pretty girl, and it's like, it's fun. I'm sorry, I just have to laugh. I can see I can see a subway from my home, and it's going by towards Shea Stadium. I'm sorry, I still call it that, towards Citi Field, and it's got all these grimaces painted on the side. Or the city has done up the train theme Mets. So, yeah, grimace is the Mets thing. But we did the episode of Enterprise where Padma Lakshmi and Trip end up stuck on the planet from Threshold. It's the same planet. We've been here before. It's the Gilligan's Island set. And, she has to tear her clothes off to fix their situation. Of course, just so happens the situation calls for her tearing off most of her clothes. It works out great for us as an audience. They are the cleanest swamp dwellers we ever saw, but it was fun to watch. And we did our first ever play-by-play together, and then we've been pals ever since. And Germ, if I ever, like, was it me or Bird of Prey 5 came back kind of surprised that we had done the kind of transformation we did.
Yeah, Bird was very complimentary.
I was surprised at that because if it sucked, I think he would have just been like, "That never do this again. You're not never allowed to come back." The first time I did it,
he was very complimentary about it.
You know what I liked about him was that human touch. The first time I watched Enterprise with him, because I did it a few times, he was like, that because this is your first time here, you have to sing the song. And he liked the way I sang the song too. I'm not the most famous singer on YouTube, but I can sing a song or two. I can sing About a Long Road. Believe me, I can sing About a Long Road. You might hear it tonight. Depends on how swept up in the beginning of the episode I am. If we have 20 concurrents or more, I'm so emotional, I always sing the song. But YouTube cracking down on views these days, it's not you guys. It's not you. You're not being a dick on X either. X is purging bots. X and YouTube are not owned by the same people, but they're trying to do this for the same thing. You need a really accurate and reliable read on what's going on before you can charge people a quantifiable amount of money that you can back up with a bunch of words that sound like they make sense based on numbers and demographics. It's called quality control.
Yeah, just YouTube sometimes when they're doing that quality control, they tend to scoop up a lot of innocent people.
You know what? They also cannot tell reality from falsehoods. So we have to only go as fast as the slowest AI. So if we're talking about science fiction violence, we have to stop and reiterate that we're talking about such a thing. And if we go any further on this, we risk giving the wrong people a how-to, because we don't want you to make a guided missile for anybody's channel either. We're not here to train up YouTube extremists. See, I almost said one of the Orwellian words we're not allowed to say. If I had said that word, or if I say the name of some of the other broadcasters and streaming services, then they take action against us. And for the last few weeks, we've been obeying those rules on this. And have you noticed that the views have gone up a little bit?
Yeah. It's like they slowly forget that they were angry at you.
Start turning on the "you're on the air" light for more people. And it's all of you wonderful people who have, and YouTube is at odds with their own desire here, because if I go on the air, I need to make it to 90 minutes before everyone knows I'm on the air. They get a half-hour warning, and then over the course of the next 2 hours, if people don't press refresh, they're not going to know. If you go one video into the next, YouTube will not refresh your browser settings. I don't think it can.
Yeah, that's a
I don't know if I want it
flaw they have there.
Well, do you want them to be able to refresh your browser settings? You know what I mean?
Maybe not.
And think about how corruptible that would be. It's like they have a way to change the Google, right? So the back door into Google is break into YouTube and use that to turn on and turn off broadcasts of all sorts of natures. And then you have like, that's when freedom from speech comes in. And everyone probably wants to be free of me saying the New York Mets will absolutely beat the shit very easily out of the fancy Los Angeles Dodgers. Like that
Well,
case
if
of
it follows
herpes
the
you
same
brought back from
pattern.
New York. We're following, yeah, you know what? We're following the Dodgers back to LA like a bad case of herpes and a hangover picked up on vacation by an irresponsible traveler. Best way I can think of to put it, Jerem.
And on that herpes note, we're going to have to end there.
We love you all, ironically.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody. We'll be back next week for another great cartoon. The poll for that will be up tomorrow morning on the community tab. We'll still have Popeye and Sam and Max, and we'll be replacing it with Ewoks.
Good thought. We love you all, and we're going to give you what you want. We'll see you tonight at 9:30 United States Eastern Standard Time when we'll bring you Enterprise. And who knows, there might be an entertainment update during the day today, and I have an upload ready to go. I'm Admiral Teague. The only Admiral Teague. Just Google me. Teague.
Take care, everybody.
Love you.